Well, hello everybody, and happy Sunday. How are you? Well, at least it's Sunday here in the States. I don't want my Australian friends to call me out on that again. I hope you're all doing fantastic. My name is Scott Pinyard. I am the head coach here at This Naked Mind, and I am going live this Sunday, as I am most. I don't do it every Sunday, but almost every Sunday I jump on live and talk about some of the things that I have been thinking about. Um, and Today, I want to talk to you about this idea of focus. I've been thinking about this a lot recently, and I want to talk about how that plays into one of the things that we say all the time, which is give yourself grace. And a lot of times people say, well, how the hell do I do that? I want to talk about it. I want to tell you some of my thoughts about it. But first, before I do that, if you are interested in getting a daily video about moving yourself a step closer to changing your relationship with alcohol, whatever that might look like for you, whether it's moderation or quitting altogether, then I cannot recommend highly enough the I want to emphasize free 30-day alcohol experiment. This is a program that Annie started off for free. It is going to continue to be free, and I want you guys to take advantage of it. So if you head on over to alcoholexperiment.com, that's alcoholexperiment.com. The link is in the description. There you can sign up for and take our 30-day program, which is all about first and foremost giving yourself grace, which I'm going to get to in a second, and secondly learning, right? Changing your knowledge about alcohol, because when we change our knowledge, we change our thoughts, and we change our thoughts, we change our emotion, and we change our emotion, guess what? Our action changes. And so we put this completely free program together that you can take at any time over at alcoholexperiment.com. There's also an app you can use as well. And we put this together just for you so that you can get a taste of what this is like. So if that is interesting to you, please go on over to alcoholexperiment.com and check it out. Hey, Maria, how are you? It's late there. Thank you for tuning in. I'm glad you did. All right. So let's dive into what I want to talk about today. Before I get started, I do want to ask if you guys have questions. I mean, this is, the usual thing. Send them in. Say hi to me. Tell me what's going on with you. Tell me how you're feeling. Ask me questions. I'll get to them after I get through my thoughts on focus for this week. So please feel free. Don't hesitate to use the comments. Also, if you know someone that you think could use this, please share. It makes a big difference to us because we get to reach more people. You know more people than I do. So please go ahead and spread it around if it feels good. So focus. Focus, right? So one of the questions I get asked a lot is, hey, how exactly do I have grace for myself? Right. And so we hear this idea where people, we talk about, we say, hey, one of the first things you do is, like Annie says, right, you put down the weapons of blame and shame and have some compassion for yourself, right? Have some grace for yourself. And it sounds simple enough, but very, very often someone says to me, well, like, how do I do this? And I totally understand this question. I mean, before I found This Naked Mind, I felt like I had just like messed up a ton of my life, right? Like I felt like, I had acted or said things that I wish I hadn't said. I felt like I wasted a lot of time. I had kids and a wife, and like I spent so much time under the influence, right? Or whatever else it might be that's in your story. And so we end up feeling stuck, right? We end up feeling sad. We end up beating ourselves up, right? And then some weirdo with a beard comes along, or any grace comes along and says, hey, go easy on yourself, give yourself grace. And very often the response to this is like, yeah, right, well, you don't know, and then like fill in the story. Here's the thing. What happens when you work to make a change is how you feel is directly connected to the actions you take. So if you are working to make this change with alcohol and you do not feel good, and I'm going to talk about this more, your emotions are negative, right? You feel sad, you feel down all of the time, then chances are it's going to be very difficult for you to pull yourself out of that position, right? So here's what I'm talking about. The way that we take action, action very often is like the last thing we do, and it's part of a chain of events that happen. So some sort of stimulus happens out there in the world, right? We take that stimulus in through our senses, right? We see it, we hear it, taste it, right? Feel it. And then that stimulus input causes subconscious thoughts. So these are thoughts we're not aware of. Those subconscious thoughts cause conscious thoughts. Those conscious thoughts cause emotions, and those emotions cause action, right? We do what we do because of how we feel. And I know for a lot of us, we think like, okay, that doesn't sound right. Like it feels like there's other parts of my life where I'm like, oh no, I'm going to go do this thing because I don't want to. I'm going to go to work even though I don't want to. Well, yeah, except you have, thoughts and emotion around keeping this job, around moving forward, around doing whatever you need to do in your life. Emotions cause actions. And one of the things, and you've probably noticed this in your life, is that is so central to the idea of giving yourself grace is this. You are more likely to do things that actually help you make progress towards your goals if you're feeling good, right? If you're feeling positive. And I mean, think about it, right? With alcohol, how often have you started, and I know that I did this a million times. Same thing, by the way, I'm talking about alcohol here, but the same thing applies to, trying to lose weight, trying to be more fit, whatever it is. But think about it, right? How often with alcohol do we start thinking about, oh man, this feels impossible, or I've tried this so many times, or I can't believe this happened, or I can't believe that happened, right? And we think about these things, we focus on the negative, we end up beating ourselves up, and then we end up doing the thing we don't want to do, right? As drinkers, what do we do when we get stressed, right? We drink. And so this is why focus is so important. And this is why I wanted to talk about this with you today, because the fact of the matter is you have way more control over how you feel than you think you do, right? Because what we focus on is what we get. And here's what I mean, right? I bet if any of you pause this video, don't pause it, keep watching me. But if you were to pause this video and say, all right, I'm going to make myself sad, you could sit there, you could think for a little bit, and you could make yourself sad, right? Your thoughts control your emotions. Same thing, by the way, if I said, hey, take a minute and make yourself happy, right? Remember the happiest thing that ever happened to you. Remember the time in your life where you were so happy, right? If you sat down and you thought about that and you focused on that, you would start to feel happy, right? Why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because when it comes to this journey with alcohol or with anything else you're trying to do that is a big change in your life, if you continue to focus on the negative, you're going to feel bad. And those negative emotions are not going to leave you in the right headspace to learn, right? They're not going to leave you in the right headspace to do something like the alcohol experiment I talked about at the top of this video, right? You're not going to be in a place where you really are, able to say, okay, like, what can I learn today? Where can I grow? Because when you're so focused on the negative, you're feeling bad, right? And we're beating ourselves up. So this is what happens. And trust me when I say that this cycle continues. You focus on the negative, you feel bad, you want to drink, you wake up the next morning, you have a hangover, you start saying, what the hell's wrong with me? I can't believe I did this. I'm ruining my life. I get it. I have been through this. I know what it feels like. And I can tell you from personal experience that it wasn't until I thought, wait a minute. No. This book, This Naked Mind, for me, I quit with the book, right, is giving me some hope. And then I'm able to say, okay, what am I thinking about right now? Right? What am I focusing on? And with This Naked Mind, and I was able to focus on the message. I was able to focus on, all right, I'm learning here, right? And so this is the very heart of why grace is so important to this method. Because if we are focusing on the negative, right? If our heads are full of thoughts, and trust me, we have lots of tools and lots of things to help work on those negative thoughts. We do a lot of that stuff. We coach through a lot of that stuff here at This Naked Mind. But if we spend a ton of time focusing on the negative, we can't learn that new stuff, right? Which means that there's some stimulus that causes some subconscious thought. We have the same old negative conscious thoughts those same old negative conscious thoughts make us feel miserable. We feel miserable, and then we do the thing we don't want to do. We stress ourselves out. We make ourselves sad, right? Instead, if we're aware, right, we can get that same stimulus. We can have those same subconscious thoughts, but then we notice, oh, wait, you know what? I'm not going to focus on that right now. I'm going to focus on this, right? This is why I'm saying you have way more power than it feels like right now. If you say, you know what, I'm not going to focus on that time at the Christmas party in 2007, just saying, right? I'm not going to focus on that. Instead, what I'm going to focus on is how I am working to change this. And there are so many things. And the amazing thing about this is that the positive thing to focus on doesn't need to be some huge, massive thing, right? And this is definitely a topic for another life. But one of the things that drives me crazy and it breaks my heart when I talk to people is that they say, oh, I want to change my relationship with alcohol. And they set like total 100% abstinence for a long period of time as the only evidence that they've made a change. But the reality is that's not what you need, right? Even focusing on, hey, you know what? I had 2 days alcohol free. I can't remember the last time I had that. Or focusing on, you know what? Today I went and I watched that video. Awesome, right? That is movement. That is progress. In other words, by focusing on where you're going, right? What you're doing to get where you get there, even if it's a small step, right? If it's a huge step, it's also good. Whether it's a string of alcohol-free days or joining the alcohol experiment, or like I said, watching this video, by focusing on the fact that you did this thing, you will feel better. And when you feel better, you are more able to think through what we talk about giving yourself grace, right? You're more able to engage with this content and actually learn because we don't have this destructive noise in our head. And when you feel better, it's so much easier to be nicer to yourself. And this is why we say give yourself grace. You know, I mean, it's central to us. It's important to Annie. I can say that. I know that it's important to me as well that people who are going through this process don't feel terrible. You know, we want you to feel hope. We want you to start with this, but we could do all of that stuff and not make a big deal about giving yourself some compassion. Right. Well, I mean, we could do that there. And there are a lot of programs out there who do that. Right. We can continue to focus on the negative. We can give you some of the tools that we do. And you know what? It would be okay. But I don't think it would be as transformative if we didn't first start with grace, because it is through that. It is through that that you have the emotional space and you have the mental space to start to learn. Right. And that's ultimately what we're all about. So one of the things that, you know, we talk about, and any of you who joined us at the at our virtual event a couple of months ago, we talked about this idea of action and knowledge and emotions, right? And so what do people normally do when they want to change something? Like, I know that I did this 100%. You know, I'm like, oh, I want to quit drinking. So I just stop drinking, right? Just put down the alcohol. Well, here's the thing. When you do that without changing your knowledge, right? Without changing your conscious thoughts, then you have the same emotions. Those lead inevitably to the same behaviors. And so what we really want to do is have you give yourself grace so that you can change that knowledge, right? You change that knowledge. That new knowledge creates new emotion, and that new emotion creates new actions or behavior. This is why, if you hear people talk about it sometimes, and we have some reviews, you can find them on our page, and I'm not bragging, I just want to say this, but this is why sometimes people say, like, oh, like, I don't know what happened, but like, I just didn't want to drink anymore, right? That's what we're working to do. We're working to change your desire to drink, not your behavior. Because guess what? You can work on changing your behavior all day long. But if that desire still exists, you are going to be fighting it. And we don't want you to fight it. Instead, what we want to do is we want to change that desire so that the action takes care of itself. And all of that starts with giving yourself some compassion. And so when people ask me this question, and I want to get to the comments in a second. I'm sorry, guys, I just got going, but please send me your questions. I want to be able to answer them for you. But when when people come to me and they ask me the question, Scott, how do I give myself grace? The answer to this is focus on what you're doing that you feel is getting you closer to your goal. And again, like, this is the amazing thing about this, is it doesn't have to be an earth-shattering incredible thing. If you have an earth-shattering incredible thing, of course, please focus on that. But even just a tiny little thing, right? Even just a small little thing. Even like, hey, you know what? Last night I started drinking half an hour later than I normally do. Focus on that. Focus on that win. And then what starts to happen? You start to have different emotions. Those emotions are going to lead you to different actions. And it doesn't always happen all at once, right? It is a process. First, you start focusing on the small win. Then you start focusing on a bigger win, and then a bigger win. And before you know it, you have been able to give yourself the space to change your knowledge, to get different emotions, and then boom, behavior changes. So guys, that's why focus is so important. And that is why you, and I'm talking to you, have way more power than you think you do in this entire process, because you have the power to change your thoughts. You have the power to recognize, wait a minute, I feel like crap today and I've done nothing but beat myself up. What's something positive that I've done? And when you recognize that, you have different emotions. And when you have different emotions, everything changes, guys. So that is what I wanted to talk about. Your focus is one of the biggest tools that you have, and we all have it. It doesn't matter if this is your first day trying to make a change, or your 500th day trying to make a change, or 5,000th day trying to make a change. It doesn't matter. You already have the tools. So pay attention to that focus and use it. It's something you will find if you try it every day for a week. I promise you, this will change your life. It is that simple, and I am not overselling it. So anyway, thank you for watching this. I want to talk to some of the comments here, and please, like I said, please send in your questions. I'll be on here for another 5-10 minutes or so. Kate says, I am back on my day one and was needing to hear from you or Annie, and God landed this live in my lap. Sparkling water, cheers to the 100 days of lasting change. Yes, that's awesome, Katie. Again, this is a perfect opportunity to focus on something that's going to make you feel good. Right? Focus on the fact that you are sitting there drinking that sparkling water, which I love. I will not show you because like it looks like it's not a mess here, but if you were to see my desk right now, I have 4 used cans of sparkling water, like right here. So I get it. But focus on the fact that you're doing that. Focus on the fact that you're here watching this video. It makes all the difference. Thank you for that, Katie. Maria said, I'm amazing. I agree with that, Maria. It is late, but you popped into my feed. Well, good. I'm glad you're here. Claire, thank you for so grateful for your honesty. Yeah, one of the things that I think is so important to us, and I know it's important to our coaches and important to people who are work for This Naked Mind, is I don't want to lie to you and say like this journey is like super easy and there's not going to be any stress and there's not going to be trouble. No, that's not what I want to do. That's not what we're about. Instead, what we're about is being real about what that pressure is, but giving you tools to handle it, and tools to handle it in a new way, right? In a different way that you might not have heard before. And so even this conversation that we're having here about focus, right? This is something you can take away with you, and you will notice and like pay attention, tomorrow or whenever you do this stuff, pay attention and say, all right, what am I thinking about? Right? I don't feel good right now. What am I thinking about? That is a tool that you have now, Claire. So I'm really glad that this has landed for you. Let's see. Paul says, I feel I can relate to this, but my fear is sleep deprivation. Without drinking, I can't sleep. Yeah. So let's talk about that for a minute, man. So first of all, thank you for that question. And this is something that comes up all the time, right? All the time. Is man, I would quit drinking, but I don't have any idea how I can quit, right? I don't have any idea, when I quit, how am I going to, and then fill in the blank. Of the top three things that people fill in the blank with, sleep is probably close to the top. So let me talk a little bit about that. Um, Paul, and then kind of talk through how this all works. So, sleep, right? For a lot of us, and I know this was absolutely the case for me, um, I fell asleep, like technically, but really I got very tired because I was drinking alcohol and then just passed out, right? It wasn't so much of a, like now when I lay down, like I spend time winding down and then I lay down and I fall asleep. That wasn't what I used to experience. And a lot of people who are working to change their relationship with alcohol feel the same way. And so what happens is we take a day off of drinking and we think, all right, I'm going to do this, right? I'm going to force myself to do this. I'm gonna make myself do this. And so I take a day off of drinking and then I go to bed. And then what happens? Right? We lay there and our eyes are wide open. And what's going on there? Well, our brains, adjust for what we do to our bodies. So a great example of this is like, this is why you can travel to the other side of the world and after a few days you can get through the jet lag and feel great, right? What is going on there? It is that your brain is adjusting for environmental factors. Alcohol is no different. And so what happens over time is our neurochemistry can change and we sort of don't have the same sort of triggers that we used to have before we drank to go to sleep when we put our heads down on our pillows, right? And so what happens is we quit drinking and then we lay down and it's just like bing, like eyes wide open. What do I do, right? And for some people, this can go on for a while. For a lot of us, alcohol massively disrupted our sleep, but it wasn't super obvious because, well, frankly, alcohol makes you feel like crap 24 hours a day. But very often, we feel like, oh man, I passed out, I slept like 12 hours, right? What we don't realize over time is that we're not getting quality sleep. Alcohol significantly disrupts the quality of our sleep. And for a lot of people, and if you've read This Naked Mind, this will sound familiar, we'll wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning. I remember for me personally, I went through this phase where I was just waking up at 3:30 a.m. I had no idea why. I didn't know why. And it would be very hard to fall back asleep. Alcohol was why. And I'm not going to go into the technical reasons of it. So I'm telling you all of this right now, Paul, for a very simple reason, right? Just like your brain adjusted to drinking regularly, your brain will adjust to not drinking in the same process, in the same manner, just like just like you adjust to jet lag, just like you adjust to driving a different route home from work. Pretty soon you're doing that mindlessly as well, right? But it takes time. And so very often this question of sleep comes up and it's like, well, what can I do? Right? Like I can't live without sleep. And the good news is that you will sleep, right? It might not feel as restful as it was feeling before. It might not even be lower quality at first than you were used to with alcohol. But, and I'll get into the details of this in a second, normally within about 2 to 3 weeks at the maximum, you will be sleeping better and feeling better than you have in years. And I mean years. And I see this over and over when we run an alcohol experiment or in our year-long program, The Path. I love when I see these posts about this and people saying, oh my God, like guys, I slept last night and like I conked out. I'm 30 days alcohol free. I'm 2 weeks alcohol free. And I slept like a baby last night. That's what happens. And so when people say, oh man, I'm really worried about sleep, there are some things you can do to sort of up your chances, but one of the main things you can do is just recognize the fact and give yourself grace that your brain is changing, right? Your body is adjusting. Someone one time phrased this to me. Someone phrased this to me in this way, like, yeah, sometimes I get urges and sometimes I have a hard time falling asleep, but you know what? It is just me coming home to myself. And I'm like, oh man, being able to think about it in that way makes all the difference. So, Paul, I don't want you to worry that sleep is going to not happen because it absolutely will. And like I said, maximum it's about 2 to 3 weeks. Of course, the same things that you do to support yourself through any change can be massively helpful, right? Make sure you're moving. Make sure that you're drinking enough water. Make sure that you're getting some exercise. It doesn't have to be crazy. And make sure that you're sticking somewhat to a schedule. You can do those things to maximize your chances of not having issues. And by the way, not everybody has issues with this. And each quit attempt is different. So if you find yourself like, hey, I've tried 3 alcohol experiments in the past, and the last time I tried it, man, I couldn't sleep. There's no guarantee that you'll have the same problem going forward. So sleep is a big one, but I want to tell you that not only is it a temporary problem, but on the other side, it is so much better than you could imagine. And I think about this all the time now. Like, I cannot imagine, I cannot remember what it was like to sleep as poorly as I did. And when, I have, and, I have things happening in my life, I'm about to sleep very poorly. But, when I do have a restful night or restless night, when I do have, something crazy happens in the middle of the night, or I go to bed way too late or get up way too early, I remember like, oh yeah, this is what it's like. And so I want to tell you that that is available for you too, but it's all going to be about giving yourself the space to work through it. So I hope that's helpful. I know that was a lot of information on sleep, but it's a great question because a lot of people feel that way. Let's see. Chrissy went to Dead and Company sober. I've seen Dead and Company before. I hope that was good. It was so much more fun than any show I have ever seen. The music was, I don't even know what percentage that is. 100 million? Let's see. 1, 2, 3. I don't know why I'm doing this because you made the point. It looks like 10 trillion percent. I think it's 10 trillion percent better is what you said. That's awesome, Chrissy. I was just at a concert. Was that last week? Holy cow. No, a week and a half ago. I went to see one of my favorite bands, Wilco. And I've seen a lot of concerts alcohol free. But, it's so funny because I was standing there, I was looking around, and like there were people who were drinking responsibly. We'll talk about what that means some other time. But man, there were a lot of people who were really just like falling down. And the concert was so incredible. And I had this thought when I was there. I was like, man, if I was sitting here drinking beers, I wouldn't be paying attention to this music. Like I wouldn't be engaged with it in the same way. So I'm really, really excited for you, Chrissy, that you experienced that. That's really awesome. Let's see. Ken says, thank you. Thank you for watching, Ken. That's awesome. Katie, thank you for this live. I needed this reminder so badly. Great. Good. I love hearing that. Amy says, great stuff. Thank you, Amy. Kate said, off to bed, Kelly. Well, good night. I think this was 8 minutes ago, so I might have lost you already, Kelly. But yeah, I did this a little bit later than I normally do. I like to do it a little bit earlier for my UK friends, but I know it can be tough to do. Katie asked, have you found that affirmation daily wins have helped greatly in beginning of becoming alcohol-free? Yes. But I want to be very specific about this. So one of the things, sometimes someone says like, oh, you guys are doing this work. Like, isn't that just positive thinking? Here's the thing. I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. Positive thinking doesn't really work, right? And I'm serious about something here. I want to be very specific. If you are repeating affirmations or thoughts to yourself that you don't actually believe, that doesn't work, right? And so a lot of times, like I am, let's see, I'll try to think of something. Like I hate running. Here's a great example. I don't like running. I don't know why people do it. I know people get good things out of it. It's never been for me. My entire life, I have never liked it. And I had myself in a position one time where, I was thinking like, oh, I really want to be a runner. And someone said to me like, well, just like really think to yourself over and over and over, I am a runner. I am a runner. I am a runner. It didn't work. And here's why it didn't work. Because I hate running, right? It didn't work because I knew I'm not a runner. And so I would say this to myself, and it just actually, and there's some very interesting research that indicates this actually creates cognitive dissonance and the exact opposite of what we want, right? It creates cognitive dissonance and negative emotion, not positive emotion. And so something like affirmations can kind of cut both ways, right? You have to believe in what you're saying every day. But you did say something here about daily wins. That is concrete. That is huge. And one of the things that I like to do in the morning when I sit down to journal, I'll talk about like 3 things I want to get done during the day. I'll talk about, and I do this with my kids too. I'll talk about, how things went. But at the end of the day, when I'm falling asleep, and again, I ask my kids these questions too, like, tell me 3 things that went really well today. Why? Why do I do that? Right? What's the point of that? It's because focusing on those wins keeps us in that good, better mental state. So when it comes to being alcohol free, right? And again, it doesn't need to be, especially as you're going through this process. If you're in the pause, which maybe I'll do a live some other time to talk about the pause, but if you're in this point where you're changing your knowledge and haven't yet changed your actions, even just small, tiny things, like I said earlier, right? I started drinking half an hour later, or I didn't drink anywhere near as much, or I watched this video, I did this thing, but focusing on and literally patting yourself on your back, right? Giving yourself recognition for these positive things makes a huge difference. And that process has helped me greatly as I go through any sort of change process. And I'll be honest with you, like I'm still growing, right? Annie's still growing. We talk about this stuff all the time. We work on new stuff all the time. And, for me, especially when I run into something difficult, right? When I run into something challenging, focusing on those small wins every day just helps you build this momentum that can be absolutely life-changing. So great question. And yes, but if you're going to use affirmations, make sure it's something you can believe. Don't feed yourself something that isn't true. I can't say I'm a runner. I ain't a runner. That's the bottom line. So I hope that's helpful, Katie. Thank you. Great question. Let's see. Esther, listening from Australia at 7 a.m. Great start to the day. Thank you. Awesome. Good. I'm glad this timing a little bit later, I know, is going to get in our Australian people. So welcome, Esther. I'm glad you're watching. Julene says, drinking while watching, but I want to stop. Hey, Julene, this is the first step, right? Being here, watching this. This is it. And, I'll tell you, I remember when I read This Naked Mind the first time, or when I read it and I finally quit, I should say, I was drinking pretty heavily. And Annie says right in the beginning of the book, don't quit drinking right away, right? Don't quit drinking right now. Instead, spend some time reading this book, right? Change your knowledge, learn some facts. Julene, that's exactly what you're doing here. That is a win. This is a win. The fact that you are here. And I'm so grateful and happy that you are here. This is a huge win. So congratulations on that, Julene. This is one step and it's all part of the process. So thank you for your comment. That's great. Let's see. Ken says, does T&M have scheduled live events like this? Glad I came across this by chance. Thanks, God. So, Ken, I normally go live sometime in a Sunday afternoon. I'm going to take a couple of weeks off here pretty soon, but generally you'll see me go live anywhere between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern. I was a little late today. So if you follow the page, if you like the page or follow the page, you will get an alert. We do occasionally do live virtual events. Some of you might have been with us in June. So again, if you're on our mailing list, or if you like our stuff, you will hear about it. It'll pop up in your feed. The last virtual event we did was 5 days in a row. Annie and I were live for more than an hour every day, Monday through Friday. It was really, really fantastic. Absolutely, you will get notified about that if you're following us. That's probably the best information I have. I know Annie goes live a few times a week. I normally do Sundays. And unfortunately, because it's technically like, I don't work a full day, so I don't schedule it in because my schedule can go all over the place. But generally for me, like I said, it's between 3 and 5 p.m. Eastern time here in the US on Sundays. But definitely like us, follow us. And, if you go to our website, thisnakedmind.com, get one of our freebies like the Am I an Alcoholic, or where you want to find out more, anything you can do to get on our mailing list, and you will find out the next time we do one of these virtual events. And for one of those, you'll know days in advance when we'll be live, and it's an awesome time. So anyway, that was a long answer, but I hope that helps, Ken. All right, everybody, I'm going to wrap it up. I want to remind you before I go, though, if you are looking for an opportunity to get some more information and change your thinking about drinking in a judgment-free space, then I cannot recommend the alcohol experiment enough. Again, the alcohol experiment is 100% free. You can find it at alcoholexperiment.com. The link is here in the description of this video. But at the alcohol experiment, it's a 30-day program. Every single day is new information from Annie and I, where we go into how alcohol affects us physically and mentally and emotionally. We don't do it in this guilt-laden way that we really want to, try to get you to beat yourself up. That's not what we do. We want to give you information and tools so that you can make the changes in your thinking. So if that sounds interesting to you, head on over to alcoholexperiment.com. And check that out. Again, it's 100% free, 30-day program. All right. Well, I hope you're all doing really well. And for those of you watching in the States, happy Labor Day. Labor Day is tomorrow, so we have a holiday tomorrow. I hope you all have a fantastic week, and I will be back talking to you real soon. Have a great week. Take care.